Welcome back to another. Let me get it more so in the middle. Welcome back to another Purpose Served podcast episode. I'm your host Darren Wingfield. For you guys that's new to this podcast is about inspiring you to be the best at whatever it is that you're doing. Be the best at that thing. Be the best that you can possibly be in it. Serve your purpose. Um, and here is about whatever it is that you're doing to the best of your ability, finding a way to give back to your community and to the people around you to improve or innovate the human experience. Man, that's the goal over here, 24/7. And for everybody that's been tuning in with me, for a minute now, I really, really thank you guys, and I appreciate you guys. You know what I mean? And to be quite honest, I was just here recording a podcast for a good 2 minutes, and I stopped it short. It didn't feel it didn't feel authentic. It felt real generic, and I had to stop and I had to restart. Why that is, I don't know. I guess it's coming from a place right now. Um, I guess it wasn't fitting. And what I was going to be talking about was pretty much how hobbies are important, how people downplay their hobbies, or how I know for a fact here in the States, hobbies get downplayed a lot. You know what I mean? In regards to like it's just something that you simply do in your free time. When oftentimes when people have hobbies, they care about that hobby more than they do a decent amount of stuff that they got going on in their lives. Henceforth, while they, you know, and a little bit of free time that they have, why they dedicate their time to, you know what I mean, the hobby that they have. You know what I mean. Whether I guess in people's spare time, I guess watching TV, playing video games and stuff like that. But there's so many things that can very well be a hobby. Um, Painting can be a hobby, art can be a hobby, and anything. But that's essentially what I was going to be talking about. I'm still most likely going to be talking about that, but it didn't feel authentic. You know what I mean? And I didn't. 2 minutes into it, actually, of me previously recording. This is 5 minutes ago. Not even 10 minutes ago. I just randomly just stopped, and that's not the first time that has happened to me. In fact, I was recording a podcast episode. I want to say like 3 days ago, and that was the same case. I actually recorded all the way up until like 25 minutes, and I stopped because it just didn't feel right. You know what I mean? And I wasn't going to put it out either. I still have it, but I'm still not going to put it out. You know what I mean? And a part of me, just to speak real candidly right now, I guess a part of me, um, after the whole spiel that I just gave to start off the podcast, I guess in a sense, it's me constantly asking that question to myself. You know what I mean? Am I doing the best I can, the most I can? And oftentimes when I do ask that question to myself, it is no, and it has been no quite recently. Um, this is real random at the moment. I'm really speaking from the heart right now, but within the last 2 weeks, um, there's been a decent amount going on. There has been a decent amount going on. For those of you that's new, I find myself saying this every week, but I play basketball. And what led me to discovering Purpose Served was my journey of playing basketball, which was at first something that, most people would coin the term hobby, but it didn't feel like a hobby for me. Basketball felt like a lifestyle. And that carried on for a long time up until last year around this time, like around the springtime. Not one necessarily now, but even now, um, I was just trying to get back into the swing of things. You know what I'm saying? I lost my motive and my drive to play basketball last year. I lost it. You know what I mean? And I talked about on here what led up to that, and it was for me doing purpose served, not necessarily this podcast, but purpose served as a business, and also playing basketball as well, and pursuing my basketball dreams as well to the best of my ability. And that eventually led to me getting burnt out in some kind of way, shape, or form. I got burnt out. I couldn't do it anymore. And it felt as though one had to give, which led me into working with Grace. You know what I mean? I knew Grace beforehand, but I actually decided to do, meditation practices and mindfulness practices with her. And we've been at it at this point for like a year strong. And even to this day, at this very moment, actually, I'm still got them same feelings that I have had towards basketball as of late, and it's kind of weird, you know what I mean? Because it was such a driving force in my life for such a long time, and then once the motivations changed around that, it felt like I changed as a person as well, and I had to respond differently due to the fact of this dramatic change. And as of late, I was playing in a men's league. Uh, this is 2 weeks ago, just about. We're on 3. You know what I mean? We're getting smacked like our last game. We lost by like 10. Game before that, we lost by 25. So me losing, I literally hate losing. When I was growing up as a kid, I was a sore loser. If I lost, you know what I mean? I was breaking controllers. I was trying to fight. I was punching holes in the wall. I was that kind of sore loser. And within the last 2 years, I really, really learned how to channel losing. And it was an instance where I was playing in the league and I got kicked out. I got fouled out of the game and ejected pretty much at the same time. And this is in championships of a game. I probably had like 17 points going into the second half, and I was being double teamed, and I passed it to a teammate, and then the teammate decided to pass the ball back to me. He was on his podcast. I'm not going to dime him out. It was Kane. The importance of impact. If you guys want to go look at that, that's exactly who the person that I'm referring to. But I passed the ball to him, and he passed it back. Later, Death Talk came, but this is me and you both know this is up there. Would piss me off. But he passed the ball back to me, and it was already 2 people on me. So there was no way I could get the ball. So the dude caught the ball, turns around, runs me over. I had uh 4 fouls, 5 fouls, and the next foul was me fouling out. He ran me over. Get out the game. You know what I mean? I was fouled out, and I was pissed. I was livid. I was really really mad, and I couldn't let that go. I couldn't let it go for nothing. And this was, I believe, 2 weeks before I left to go to Puerto Rico. So I will always be playing in something here, like in the area, and practicing, and always use that as a preparation for wherever it was I was going to be playing next. And this one in particular was me preparing myself to go to Puerto Rico and playing Aguadilla. But I was mad. And after the game, I remember talking to a close friend of mine, Steve, who made the logo for me. Shout out to Steve. But just pretty much, it made me really just take a step back and view my emotions while I was feeling that way. And is is there a lesson to be learned in a situation? And the lesson was, you know, don't get overly emotionally invested in this thing because it can blind your judgment to what's going on around you, what the actual circumstance is. And that definitely, I needed to learn that before I went to Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico is the same situation. Not really, but we ended up making it to championships where we ended up winning. You know what I mean? And this is a completely different team with people for the most part I never met a day in my life, and we all just had to mesh together real quick. You know what I mean? And try to win this tournament. You know what I mean? And come out on top, which we did. Fast forward to now. You know what I mean? I'm losing, and before when I lost, I want to say within the past year, it really hasn't affected me like that. A decent amount of losses. The last major loss that affected me was me playing in a 1-on-1 outdoors. You know what I mean? That I taught you guys about, and how that loss affected me, and how personally I took that. You know what I mean? My expectations going into the game, and what my expectations, I mean, what the reality was after the fact. You know what I mean? But 2 weeks ago we lost. We lost by 25 points, and I was pretty upset. I was I was mad as hell, to be quite honest. But it sparked something in me. I'm sitting here telling myself, like, a men's league game, a men's league game, seriously, out of everything, a men's league game. That's what it took for you to get your little spark back, a freaking men's league game. And a mindset that I had 2 weeks ago was one that it took me years to get to, and I took it for granted, to be quite honest, because I thought it was something that it could never go away. But things do wither away if you don't maintain it. If you don't be disciplined with it, you know what I mean? If you're not persistent with it, it will wither away. And for me, I took that for granted. You know what I mean? My life was basketball. And this men's league thing, I lost track of that. And then once that loss happened, it snapped back until it was like, yo, your life got to be basketball again. Your life has to be basketball again. I forgot how much I missed the game. I forgot how much I loved it. And that next week, when I say I went back into madman mode, the next day, I told myself that I had to run like a 7 something mile. And right after, I had to go put up shots, at least 100 made shots. And how I did those workouts, just to put you guys back in the step by step process. I pretty much did those workouts how, you know, a process. The process for me when I was training for basketball was I had to focus on one thing. You know, I couldn't focus on a whole bunch of things. I had to focus on what is the value that I bring the most on the court, and that's shooting the ball, shooting the basketball. Now, the first goal is being able to catch and shoot a basketball as efficiently as I possibly can. And this is stuff that was all self-taught to me, because I didn't have no trainers and I didn't have no coaches. Which, all in all, if you guys have been tuning into the podcast, is you guys know firsthand why this podcast got started. You guys know firsthand why Purpose Served got started. Is because I didn't have those resources, and being able to provide those to resources to people in them kind of situations, and not in the context of basketball, but pretty much the context of creation and creativity. If you don't have those resources, Purpose Served should be the creation hub or incubator for you to create a project or put something out to the world that necessarily you're not connected to the people or resources. That's what I'm trying to generate here. That's what I'm trying to create here at Purpose Served. But all in all, through that, I had to go through very, very intensive training, trial and error through myself to figure these things out. And I wanted to increase my shot. So the very first thing is I had to work on the basic technique and the basic fundamentals of catching the ball and putting it into the basket. Well, literally, the goal is to make as many as I possibly can and miss as least as I possibly can. Now, how do I do that? I do that simply by first concentrating on um, efficiency. So the first goal is to make my goal was to make 10 shots around the court. Uh, in 10 different spots. So it's 5 mid-range. Now, if you guys don't play basketball, what a mid-range shot is, it's within the 3-point line. So like if you guys know what the free throw line is, that's considered a mid-range shot. So I would shoot them from both corners, both wings, and the top of the key. That's 5 spots for mid-range. And then after that, I would move back to the 3-point line and do the same exact thing for both corners and both wings and top of the key. I would do 10 free throws before I started. I call this thing the loop, where I'm shooting from those 10 spots. I call it the loop because I'm going around in the loop and I'm making my way back around in the loop. And I do 10 free throws and then 10 free throws after. And it's just simply making those shots without dribbling, just catching the ball and shooting it. So I'll roll a ball to myself and step into it and shoot. And then after that, I'll work on doing that, just making 10. Then progressively increase the difficulty over time the more I keep doing this. Just to show you guys like the building blocks and the layers, because you can apply this method to whatever it is that you're doing outside of this context of basketball. But then after I make these 10 and say I'm doing that for a week, and then now I can make 10 without, having a whole racking up a whole bunch of misses. Now I'm getting pretty a decent amount of consistency through this. Now, I will make making these shots a little more challenging. Now I have to make 10 without missing 3 in a row for free throws, doing a loop, the whole nine. Still catch and shoot. Still catch and shoot. Um, and then after doing that, I only do it, and I do it until I get decent at it. I do it until I get good. I don't give myself a necessary time limit. Um, well, it depends. Now I can go through that process, gone on is truth in the matter. This whole process that I'm about to explain to you guys, I can go through this whole process. All it would take is me 6, 7 days for me to go from the starting point. And oftentimes, I start from where I'm about to explain to you right now. I'm sorry for being jumping back and forth, but um, then I would do make 10 without missing 2 in a row. That's currently now what I start off with if I'm trying to get my rhythm. Normally start off with making 10 from all 10 spots of the loop without missing 2 in a row. And then once that get easy, I then go to making 5 in a row straight. And then after that, I can jump to 6. And then I jump to 7. And I jump to 8. And I jump to 9. And I jump to 10. 10 in a row from all 10 spots. And after that, that's just all simply one phase of catching and shooting. Now, to make everything more advanced, now I'm doing the loop as a warm up, and now I'm adding in-game shots like um, one dribble pull-ups coming off a screen, in and outs, counter moves, counter rejects off of screens, popping up off of a screen, pin downs, transition. I'm doing the same thing, and I have a notebook where I wrote this down, which I was talking about, I believe, in the last podcast episode about my red basketball notebook. And in this red basketball notebook, that's where I wrote a lot of these down and be able to keep track of my progress. And I had to do this because I necessarily didn't have, like I said, the resources like the coaches and the trainers and all of that to keep me on top of doing this. I had to do it myself. And over time, well, within the last like 7, 8 months, I lost my initiative to do that for myself. You know what I mean? And as of late, been questioning why that is. You know what I mean? Because I went through the same process with drumming when I was growing up. I dedicated my life to drumming when I was a kid. That's all I wanted to do was drum. You know what I mean? Looking at dudes like Tony Royster Jr., Buddy Rich, Dennis Chambers, all of these great, magnificent drummers. And I remember in the 7th grade, I did my language arts project about somebody that I don't want to use idol. I'm low key starting to hate that word, but idolize, and it was Tony Royster Jr. You know what I mean? And watching his drum solo, I think at the age of like 12, dedicated to the late great Tony Williams, another great drummer as well. Rest in peace to Buddy Rich and Tony Williams. But I was fascinated by this, and then the following year, you guys all know the infamous story with my science teacher and what led me into playing basketball. But I lost that internal push to keep me going, you know. And within these last week, 2 weeks, this last week, I mean, that first week when I started that workout, I went so hard that um, I hurt myself. You know what I mean? I messed up my knee because I'm pushing myself too hard too quickly. You know what I mean? Running a 7 minute mile, one day after not running for like 6, 7 months, and then the next day I'm running a 6 minute mile. That's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? But that's how locked in I was. That's how focused I was, and I lost that within a week. You know what I mean? And this was about 7, 8 days ago. Now we're talking about a week ago. You know, and at this point, that really do make me feel a certain type of way because I can't. I don't want to be that person that's not out here practicing what he preaches, and I'm sitting out here and I'm throwing these vibes out to y'all, and I'm not living these words myself. That makes me feel uncomfortable. That makes me feel extremely uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And that's why I guess to start off the podcast, you know what I mean, when I said what I said, um, about stopping the previous podcast I was literally just doing not too long ago. It didn't feel real, man. It didn't feel like I was being honest with you guys, and I didn't feel like I was being legit. And I couldn't skip over that. I couldn't skip over anything that I just said for like the last like 20 something minutes, And I had to let you guys know about what's going on with me right now, currently at the moment, and where I'm trying to go from here, you know. And the craziest thing is, which is something kind of weird and ironic, is just that my coach for the ABA for the Delaware Snipers, she was at the previous two games that I played in because her boyfriend is in the same league. You know what I mean? So she was there, and honestly, that season didn't end. You know what I mean? Too good. And I wasn't playing like that. I wasn't playing at all, actually. And it ended with me having a conversation with her about that and about if I was to play again on the team, what would be different. What would be different? You know what I mean? Because it felt as though I was wasting my time. You know what I mean? While working a full time job. And it's something. I've been shout out to Emily. You know what I mean? I had to make that shout out and shout out to the Delaware Snipers. And what I was about to say, I lost my train of thought with that too. Um, what was I? Boom. So I've been having these opportunities that 4 or 5 years ago, I would have literally died to put myself in these predicaments and have these things flowing on around me that all I have to do is just simply commit to, and that's it. You know what I mean? I worked real hard for these opportunities, and it feels like now I don't know what to do with them. I'm wasting them. I'm wasting them, and a feeling that I have that's really really drastic with me is just that if it feels like I'm not taking advantage of the opportunities that's around me. They real life feel like life or death situations. They feel like life or death situations. And my anxiety gets heightened, you know what I mean? I get real overwhelmed because, any little opportunity, it felt like, you know what I mean? I threw my life out the window. And for me, bullshitting from 17, 18 years old all the way up until I was 22, 23. It feels like now I'm playing catch up. It feels like I'm just playing catch up. You know what I mean? And things aren't happening as fast as I would like them to. And I'm learning how to be patient, and I'm still learning how to go with my gut and trust my intuition, and also be smart about my moves and not just simply do anything on a whim of me simply feeling like I simply have to do it. You know, and I'm developing a broader perspective of understanding, you know, and I had to be transparent with you guys, especially that you guys take your precious ass time out your day to listen to somebody like me, you know. I really do hope that this comes across as helpful and we're all walking the same journey, you know what I mean? And we're all going through life in the same sort of way with all of these different obstacles that presents itself in so many different shapes and sizes, and in a sense it can feel like we're walking in the dark, we're walking in a big shadow, you know what I mean? Or the forest, walking in the forest and feeling our way through with things that we don't necessarily understand what they are, what we're looking at, or we probably can't even see anything in general, and that's why we have each other, you know, because we are the beacon of light to each other in a sense. We learn from each other, we grow with each other. Um, that's why I'm trying to build a strong sense of community here at Purpose Served, and that's going to first start with me doing what I got to do. And I'm still working on the foundations of what I'm looking to have in the future, um, to be able to provide you guys with something where you can create and give back. You know what I mean? To help other people see the potential that they have, the resilience that they have, the who they are. You know what I mean? Who they simply are, and we're constantly. I don't. You look to your left, you look to your right, man. Just look in the mirror, and you'll see that you are the makeup of what I just said. You know what I'm saying? All in all, just like that. Okay, boom, 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 boom. I was about to cut it short, but now that I got what I had to say out. Listen, we all got hobbies, stuff that we do in our free time. Don't downplay it. For one, it gets downplayed so much. It gets downplayed so much, and really, really, you know what I mean. Involve yourself in whatever hobby you're doing. Like for example, if one of your hobbies is running, join the running club. You know what I mean? Be a part of people that's running too, and I don't know, run for a cause. Maybe it's not that deep for you. You know what I mean? But don't downplay any of the hobbies that you guys have. That that's literally making you happy. You know what I mean? And for some of y'all, that's working some shitty jobs. No offense. You know what I mean? Probably around living with some shitty people. No offense. That only thing that you have is that hobby that takes you away from all of that, and don't downplay it. You know what I mean? I think that um when we're young and developing and stuff like that, all of those things that we love to freaking do, I don't know, we don't call it a hobby then. You know what I mean? It's just something that you simply do, and the older that you get, it just becomes more and more of less importance, and that has a lot to do with responsibilities. You gotta take care of your kids. You gotta take care of your wife or your husband. You gotta take care of the bills. You have to go to work. But all in all, don't let that stuff kill your soul, kill your identity, kill like who you are, and really, really actively engage in it because it's something that's a part of you that's connected with whatever that thing that you're doing. You know what I mean? Don't downplay your hobby. Don't downplay any of your hobbies. It's something that's getting you through the day. Yeah, so don't downplay your hobbies, man. Don't downplay your hobbies. It's getting you through the day. It's making you happy. It's bringing fulfillment to your life. You know what I mean? And make sure your hobby is something that's having you active, physically active, and not just you mindlessly doing something. You know what I mean? Have it really engaging, you know what I mean, your brain or your body or both. You know what I mean? If need be. Um, that's what I guess I wanted to say. And also, this is going to be the last talk that I'm doing with me, just straight up talking to you guys for a while. I can't say how long, you know what I mean? But I'm going to start sharing this space and this platform on this podcast with guests, and because it feels like I've been real selfish, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure y'all probably at this point tired of hearing me anyway. I mean, maybe not. That's probably the reason why you're here. That shit sounds crazy, but I want to get a space yet again to people that's doing some great things out here in the world, and that got hobbies themselves or that's actively engaging whatever it is that they're passionate about wholeheartedly. I'm about to share that space with them. Yet again, because this is not about me at all. This is about, you know what I mean, us collectively serving our purpose. Um, and what else I was going to say other than that? If you guys would like to be on the podcast as a guest, I will have on my website a guest outreach page where you can fill in an application form stating who you are, where you're from, and what is it that you want to talk about. What is it that you do for you to and your interest on being on the Purpose Search podcast. Um, but all in all, thank you guys, man. Thank you guys for tuning in yet again to a Purpose Served podcast episode. I thank you guys so much for tuning in with me. This is only the beginning, you know what I mean? For Purpose Served as a business entity, as a brand, and also still as a podcast as well. Serving is an action and treat the purpose as if it's the goal. Take action towards your goal. Serve your purpose. If it ain't PS, then it's BS. Yeah! Yeah!